Us. I have a big announcement. The ice age is officially over. Um, so I know you're all here mostly because you want to see what's going on, but you're also getting out of the hot weather, and I don't blame you. So thank you all for joining us. Um, we know it's 5 o'clock because Mr. Carroll just showed up. And we will start this afternoon with the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation by Mr. Councilman Steve Mearsman.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of the community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that might affect us and all those around us, and continue to remind us all that we do here today, all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service to humanity. We ask these things.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our servicemen and women who have fought and died for our freedom, and for all those who continue to serve around the world, protecting our way of life. Thank you. Okay. I'll now call this meeting to order. This is a City of Hardeeville regular City Council meeting and public hearing, 205 Main Street, Hardeeville, South Carolina, July 20th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Our first order of business is to approve today's agenda. May I have a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes to the agenda for today?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments by council? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have no executive session today, and do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Okay, so we'll go right into public presentations. And the first one is the introduction of Hardeeville Police Corporal Tyler Courier.
Mayor and council, thank you for allowing me to stand before you and present one of Hardeeville Police Department's newest officers. This is Corporal Tyler Courier and his wife Jordan. I'll start off by telling you that he is a 5-year veteran of the United States Navy. He resided up in New Hampshire, where he's got over 5 years of law enforcement experience with a local agency there as a patrol sergeant. He holds many certifications, some to include being a use of force instructor, firearms instructor, FTO manager. So we certainly love the fact that we were able to get this caliber of applicant to apply with us and thus be able to obtain a position with the Hardeeville Police Department. Coming from New Hampshire, this gentleman did a lot of research. When I tell you a lot of research, we didn't have to tell him anything about the city of Hardeeville because he already knew it. He chose the city of Hardeeville for his place of residency to build his forever home with his wife, and then chose the Hardeeville Police Department as his place of employment. And we certainly look forward to his future with us. So I present to you Corporal Tyler Courier.
Corporal, please, the microphone is yours.
Just want to say thank you for your support, and I'm happy to be part of Hardeeville.
Well, thank you very much. What made you decide to move to the Low Country?
Well, my in-laws, my wife's parents moved down last year.
Okay.
We were coming down about every month to see them, and we fell in love with the area, so we decided to make the jump earlier this year. So,
as many of us did up here from the north as well. So, on behalf of the city, I not only I welcome you, I thank you for coming and being a part of. We have a very fine police force, and we're very proud of it. So, welcome.
thank you.
Much happiness. Council, anyone?
Welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Glad you moved here. Smart man. Smart move.
Thank you.
Do you have children?
Expecting?
Congratulations. Okay. All right. Now the secret's out. Okay.
Good to
thank
meet you.
Next, we have introduction of BJ WSA General Manager Verna Arnett. Miss Arnett. Welcome. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation to attend tonight. I have been with Buford Jasper as the general manager since May 1st, so I arrived here on April 30th and am getting used to the heat, but I'm also enjoying getting out to the communities, and certainly I've been to Hardeeville several times. So it's a great community.
Right. Well, we obviously welcome you. I do want to tell the community that I contacted Miss Arnett after meeting her at a reception about a situation with a resident, and I got to tell you, I can't thank you enough what you did, and at your level of responsibility to get involved with an individual homeowner, it was so admirable, and I can't thank you. And so I know BJWSA is in very good hands. Thank you very much. Council, would anybody like to address Ms. Arnett?
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here. Greg's been praising you. Greg and I have been friends for decades, and he's been telling me good things. So just keep him straight, okay?
Yeah.
I'll do that.
And please, the key to any relationship is communication. Anything, anytime, us as a council or administration, please feel free to reach out and keep us informed.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it.
Saving
Thank you. Good luck.
Harry's gonna be tonight.
Next, we have the South Carolina American Revolution 250 Committee. Mr. Smitty Cooler is going to give us a presentation. I'd also, I'd like to thank Miss Kathleen for sending, I don't know if everybody got it, that YouTube 30-minute video that you sent me. Did you send that to all the council?
No.
You should. It's a
Okay.
good local history.
Yes, it is.
So, Mr. Cooler, please.
Mayor, members of council, staff, thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. As you may know, in 2018, the state South Carolina General Assembly established and chartered the South Carolina 250 Commission, which was tasked with the responsibility to plan and execute a proper observance of the sesquicentennial of the American Revolution in South Carolina. Furthermore, the official mission was to celebrate and promote South Carolina's role in the American Revolution by educating, engaging, and inspiring South Carolinians and visitors. The strategic goals of the Commission's efforts center around commemorative events, education, and cultural heritage tourism. Throughout the state, via the county governments, this is to be executed. And that's where we come in, locally. Planning and executing this multi-year commemoration of the American Revolution. The period runs, of course, from 1770 to 1783. The entire length of the American Revolution period. So that coincides 250 years later as we fast forward to 2020 to 2033. Obviously, the crescendo event will be 2026, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Back on April 17th, the Jasper County Council passed a resolution to make the new 15-member Jasper County 250 committee official. I have myself and 3 tonight here from that committee. We have one on your sitting with you, Ms. Val Guzman, who's been very helpful already. This committee, again, is tasked with doing exactly the things I described earlier. Currently, the committee is working on a historical asset survey, Jasper County, which includes underrepresented groups, as well as the higher profile, more well-known history in the county. Working on a strategic plan, which will detail timeline, projects, and events, as well as preparation for the South Carolina 250 state grant application submissions, which are just ahead of us. Okay? We look forward to working with the town of Hardeeville and we appreciate the interest you've shown thus far in this important commemoration effort. Just to get out of the brass tacks for a minute, and then I'll, of course, entertain any questions you might have. Obviously, we've identified right out of the gate 3 important sites in Jasper County. Thomas Hayward's site, Old House, sign of the Declaration of Independence. His father's plantation site, Daniel Hayward. The Battle of Coosawhatchee in Coosawhatchee, South Carolina, above Huguenot's Neck, which creates the rim for what we call the Yuha neighborhood. Dr. Larry Rowland described that stretch from Old House, Chelsea to Coosawhatchee as the most patriotic neighborhood in the Beaufort district and possibly in the 13 colonies at that time. Okay, many people don't realize that, and we want to really bring that to light again. A lot of that history has been forgotten in that area particularly. And then, of course, Perrysburg. We want to make sure we do a lot of work on Perrysburg. Perrysburg over the years has been quiet, as you well know, but these two ladies behind me, Linda Morrison and Kathy DeCourcy, are moving at light speed to the Perrysburg site. This is a site that I thought would be a struggle, but going back to the work of groups like the Lamar Institute out of Savannah, great work, great in-depth study from some years ago. And along with Linda being part of the Daughters of the American Revolution effort, we are way ahead on Perrysburg. And of course, what I'm looking for as a volunteer project director is I'm looking for sites throughout the county. Of course, along with this, we'll have already underway our educational pursuits. There will be essay contests. There will be events. There will be a mobile narrative exhibit moving around the county from time to time. We're trying to meet at different locations. We'll begin to meet different locations around the county to get a feel for all the different areas. A lot of this is still underway, but our primary task right now is getting ready for the rollout of the grants, okay, and following the state commission's lead. They've done a tremendous job funding this, a tremendous job with resources, and already many counties are ahead of us. Many counties and other entities started, 2 or 3 years ago, and have already accomplished a lot and taken advantage of the first rollout of grant money. But let me stop there. The goal of the Perrysburg project, and we, the committee, have attached this project to Perrysburg because of the location, obviously, okay? And it's really great to be in the council chambers of my hometown. And growing up in Perrysburg and knowing the landing, some of the old folks who were here who used to have the little historical society meetings and so forth. It's great to see that perhaps Perrysburg could become something of a history park is our, I guess, pie in the sky goal at this point. But I think a very achievable goal. The goal of the project now, of course, is to place Revolutionary War marker and historical interpretive panels near historic sites at Perrysburg, and then add this location to the South Carolina Liberty Trail to draw tourists and visitors. One of the big objectives, of course, is to draw this cultural tourism to draw visitors to our area on a regular basis. Okay, so eventually we'll work toward that project where there will be maps, brochures, websites. We'll be piggybacking on the South Carolina 250 site with their newsletters and websites and so forth, which will represent Jasper County alone, for example. Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Kohler, before I ask the council to have questions, could you give us specifics of what you're asking this council for?
Well, right now, as I think there's talks on to proceed to this, and you can help me with it, ladies, if you like. In order to proceed with the applications for the grants, a letter from the town of Hardeeville granting permission to place markers at Millstone Landing and at Becks Ferry Road would be a great start. Okay. Do you want to add to that?
Becks Ferry is Jasper County, but the Millstone Landing site is where we're looking to put the most historical panels right now.
Okay, so, and I'm looking at what we have in our packet here. Are you asking us yet for historical markers, or at this point, are you just asking us for a letter?
At this point, we're just The letter will allow us to apply for grants that will cover the cost of the panels.
And do you have a template that you want us to follow, or should we just make it up?
You could just make it up, or I can certainly send you a template, but it just needs to say that you're granting the commission permission to place historical markers at Millstone Landing at Millstone Landing.
Okay. Let me open it up to the council and see if they have any questions.
Mayor Williams will also be coming back to Hardeeville, Ridgeland, and Jasper County for the consideration of matching grants, okay? And in doing so, many of the grants that are offered have a matching formula. And so we'll come back to you as to what you think is most appropriate, what you would consider. And obviously, it doesn't mean that it has to be in the Hardeeville area, but I think it's an obvious fit and a nicety if that can be the case, okay?
Okay, so administration we have a very specific process that goes through a nonprofit that the city has formulated specifically for these kinds of requests. So we'll navigate you through that, and you'll have to go through that process
Right.
at whatever time that becomes appropriate. But the timing is important because there's times when the pot's empty and it has to be refilled every year. So you need to be aware of when the pot's getting refilled.
Mhm.
So, council, any comments or questions?
I looked at the information you gave us. It was impressive. I saw some of the sample type signs, and we live in a unique place with a unique opportunity to acknowledge something that changed the world, really. And thank you for your leadership in all this.
Thank you. It's a beautiful site. We were excited. We both came down to Perrysburg to scope it out, and we were driving along the road and said, we've got to find a site that we can put some interpretive panels up. And we went into Millstone and we both said, it's perfect. It's perfect site.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So I think what we have to do, Mike, will you draft the letter, and I guess the next meeting, will the council have to approve this by resolution?
We can put it on the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So what, is that okay? Is 2
Yeah.
weeks okay, or do you need it faster than that?
We still have a
So-
lot of
The grants aren't open yet. We're just getting prep work done.
Okay, because we're a voting body, and there's no one of us that are Putin, so we all have to do everything by vote. So a lot of people hope not. So we'll draft the letter. It'll be before council in 2 weeks. We'll vote, and if it passes, we'll send it on to you.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Thank you very much for your
All right.
Just one
Thank you.
more plug. The Lamar Institute study, I did send a copy to you, and I believe Val has a copy of it. But if anybody's interested in what took place down there for the archaeological dig, Dan and Rita Elliott, who performed that archaeological dig out there, will be at the Jasper County Historical Meeting September 12th at the Morris Center. They will be our speakers. So.
Okay, if you could forward that to all the council member, I forgot, I didn't look to see who you sent it to and who you didn't, and, but I thought it was very interesting.
Yes, thanks. And I'll send them the videos too.
Great, thank you. Okay, next, we have a presentation approval of minutes from July 6, 2023 council meeting. Do I have a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes to the minutes of July 6?
Make a motion, we approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments by council? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. We go into old business. And old business is second reading of ordinances. The first one is authorizing the acquisition of certain property by the city of Hardeeville. The lease purchase financing in the amount not exceeding $1.9 million. And this is the second reading. This is ordinance 2023-7-6A. Mr. Zimbo or Mr. Boyle?
Yes, sir, thank you. We're recommending adoption, Mr. Mayor, which would be for the enterprise as well as the fiscal year 24 purchases. I did want to note that there's been a lot of work by Mr. Boyle and our financial advisor, our bond counsel, and Ms. Preen, obviously making this transaction hopefully to occur. So we're recommending adoption so we can move forward with that borrowing.
Okay, let's start the questioning from my right, Mr. Mearsman.
I think staff has put in a lot of time on this, and we've had quite a bit of a discussion on this, and I think financially and in the best interest of the city, I think we should move ahead with this.
Okay, Mrs. Guzman.
I have no question.
Mr. White?
I think Steve said it well. No other comment.
Mr. Carroll?
I know Mike and them worked hard on this, and I just wish we hadn't had to come to this. But I guess it's about what Mike recommended, and I guess we're gonna have to go along with it. And I know they did work hard to get this done, and we got a good interest rate, but wasn't too happy with the situation with Enterprise. But anyway, since Mike and I recommended, I don't have a problem, I don't guess.
I just have one, I don't know if it's a question or just a thought for the council to consider. As we all know, the council's primary responsibility is approve spending and what we spend the city's money on. We're approving, or we're being asked to approve $1.9 million, which is a lot of money.
Yes.
And questions come to my mind as I look at the list and how we're replacing a lot of cars. And I know a lot of them are police cars. But I'm saying yes to a document. I don't know if we're replacing a car. Do we replace a car with 50,000 miles or 100,000 miles? What each position does that require? A $50,000 car or a $20,000 car? I mean, we buy a lot of cars for the city. And I don't think we as a council know that. But we're approving a lot of money. And so my question really is to the council. We should all think about it. And if that's something you want to get in those weeds, I think we should discuss whether or not we want to do that. Because as you look at that list, are we replacing a car that only got 50,000 miles on it? I know we get rid of it but maybe it should be 70,000 miles, and maybe it should be 35,000 instead of a $50,000 car. We're not making those decisions, but we're signing the check, and it's really a question for the council.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask you, John. Mayor kind of, I guess he was reading kind of my mind, and I asked Mike, didn't we talk about, I guess it was the last meeting, John, or meeting before, that some of this, I want to make sure I'm understanding, some of this money is to buy out Enterprise, and by buying out Enterprise, Mr. Mayor, didn't we talk about, was it 15 cars we were getting? Is that right, Mike? Or somebody from?
If I could jump in, Mr.
Yeah, I just,
Carroll. It is 25 vehicles
Okay.
that we are taking over, buying out the leases for Enterprise, and it is 15 vehicle, contemplation of 15 new vehicles.
okay.
for
I
the
knew it
city.
was 50.
And it's not just replacement vehicles. Remember, as we add public works people and police and everything, we need vehicles for them.
So I guess Mike, John, whoever, 800 and something thousand, am I right? It goes to Enterprise.
I'm looking at the minutes, Mr. Carroll, and it's $871,000, which buys out 25 vehicles, and then 980,000 for 15 new vehicles. Right, Mr.
sir.
Buck?
Now, one of these vehicles that we're buying out is more than 2 years' worth of service. Am I correct in reading that?
Right, but we're keeping,
That's correct.
But we're keeping them all.
and then we'll do the normal distribution and based on miles and use. And
The payoff values on these, are those the numbers get provided by the leasing company, or did you research them to see what the value is?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
It is certainly what the leasing company required for us to buy out of the lease. And I know one of your questions was see if they'll work with us on the fees and all that. And we did get them to cut their fees in half. We felt like that was a pretty big win for the city. That was 40,000 plus on that.
Okay. Well, in relation to what the mayor has said, do we have a schedule of replacement based on miles or hours? The police interceptor vehicles, mileage is a different, those things they may have 50,000 miles on them, but they could have 50,000 hours of idling time on them too. How is that? Do we have a schedule for those?
There is a schedule, and for your first responder vehicles, there's certain thresholds where it's miles or year of the vehicle, just to make sure that, it's one thing if a public works truck gives out, it's another thing if your fire chief's vehicle gives out while he's.
Okay. As we move on into the future, perhaps those that you're using could be provided to council, so we would know as these vehicles come ahead.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I would just encourage everybody from the council, if you have any of these questions, just ask them, and then they can be answered, and when you come to the vote, you're being as educated with the vote as possible.
I do have a question, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor. I was asleep at the switch when this gets back to a conversation, first with you, John, with Enterprise. We know they did a lot of things incorrectly and did some things, and I asked you at the last meeting, have you done sort of an internal audit on Hardeeville to make sure our piece of the problem is corrected internally? And I'm just reminding you of that. But a bigger question I have, and I'm not pleased with where we are on this, I think cars should be defined by the position, not left to be handed out, maybe even arbitrarily to people, which raises issues of favoritism and things like that. Generally speaking, a car goes with a position, not with a person. And so position X is car eligible. Can that car be driven at home at night? What's the status on all that? And I don't think we've defined that, and it's a lot of hard work. But if you don't define those things, then I think you've got some real issues down the road. And I'm not pleased with, maybe you have answers to this, but the issue of cars by position, not by person, is something that I'm still concerned about.
Understand, and that's a policy thing. And a number of months ago, we did have if I recall correctly, a pretty lengthy discussion. It was at the recreation center talking about just that very thing. But as far as a policy thing, that's for the people sitting up there. That's not for me.
What that would translate to me, John, is all the list of the car positions, and I've never seen a list like that. Maybe it's around, but I haven't seen it. Mike, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, we have a vehicle use policy, and I agree with John. I know this has been brought up on multiple occasions. So it's obviously, it is based on position, it's based on use, it's based on necessity, based on the job description. So I determine there's a specific policy, and obviously it's based on criteria, when a vehicle is replaced, when it's recycled into other departments, and when it's surplus.
Well, do you mind sharing that list?
Absolutely. We can
That's
share
what we
you the
like to
list.
see. We're not
we-
questioning it. We just like to understand
Oh,
it.
absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. I'm not going to open any other hornet's nest. That's it.
One thing.
That's it for me. That's it for me. I'd like to now open this up to the public. Would anyone from the public like to ask a question or make a comment? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes to the second reading of 2023-7-6A.
I'll make a motion that we approve 2023-7-6A.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor, reluctantly.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions by council or the public?
My only comment would be, Mike, that you would get that list to us somewhere over the next couple of weeks, just so we could be informed on it, answer any questions on that at your convenience.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I'm going to call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ordinance passes. Before I go on to the next one, Mr. Kemp, you slipped in and I didn't see you come in. So I'd like to acknowledge the presence of County Councilman John Kemp, and Kendall will introduce you in a few minutes. Okay, next is, in old business, is the second reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 8, Fire Prevention and Protection of the Hardeeville Code of Ordinances for the purpose of amending the burning permit requirements and related matters. This we talked about at the last meeting. This is ordinance 2023-7-6B. And before I open it up to the council for questioning, I'd like to again thank you, Chief Rao, for your responsiveness to this issue. I think it's a big improvement, and the amount of time that you put into investigating and the openness to change is quite admirable, and I want to thank you. Do you have anything to further introduce before I turn it over to questioning?
No, sir. Just one quick statement. If passed tonight with second reading, it's our intent to publicize everything pretty heavily on Monday with media to get it out for commercial and or residential, and to give that non-emergency dispatch number for folks to be able to report smoke or fires or things that may be of concern without having to dial 911 or come to the station.
Great, thank you. Let's start the questioning with Mr. Carroll.
No questions, Mr. Mayor. Joey did a good job, and you understand now the full intent and the extent of what a pile is and all now, right?
And I thank you both for educating me.
Thanks, Joey.
The things you learn, even at my advanced years, I can still learn. Any
No, sir.
further
No,
questions
sir.
or smart comments from you?
No, sir. I'll
Councilman
behave. I'll
Carroll?
behave.
Thank
Okay.
you, Smokey.
Councilman White.
Nice job. I think that you thought this out, because this is one of those phone ringers when it's out there happening. And I think the thoughtfulness of what you've done is very good. And I'm going to compliment you and your colleagues for good work.
Mrs. Guzman.
Just to say thank you. I think this was a really well-written, well-thought-out. Thanks.
Mr. Marsman.
Chief, thank you. The smoke, the fire burning, it's a hot button right now with all the new development we have going on. And I think you put a lot of thought into this. I'm sure that hotline number will be ringing quite frequently once you get everything up and established. But I think the ordinance makes sense, and it's probably, I know it's for the best for the community. Thank you.
I have a question that really just came up an hour before this meeting. I met with a resident from the Levy area, He, of course, is not in the city limits of Hardeeville, but he is adjacent to the Clarius project down, the warehousing down there, and apparently they're burning now. So even though he's not a resident or within the city limits, the burner is within the city limits, and they'll be held responsible for this ordinance immediately.
The permit that was issued was under the old language that once that 30 days for that permit expires, then it will go into the new language for it.
Go into
But they're trying to be good neighbors, and I did explain to them, the Clarius folks that are clearing there, that a new ordinance was going into effect. And if the person from Levy's being inconvenienced, just have them reach out to me. I'll be glad to take a look at it.
And I did say that to them, even though he's not in the city limits, this is a burning in the city limits, and that we would be responsive to him regardless of his location of his residence.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you for confirming that.
Can you talk to the Canadian people too about their fires?
Right.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open it up to the public. Would anyone from the public like to voice an opinion about this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes. This is ordinance 2023-7-6B.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve on second reading ordinance number 2023-7-6B.
We have a motion, and since I asked for this, I'm gonna be the second. I'm gonna second that. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further comments or questions by council or the public? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Next, we go on to new business, and this is the first reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Administration of the Hardeeville Code of Ordinances for the purpose of adopting and amending rules and procedures and other related matters. This is ordinance 2023-7-20A. Before I open it up to administration and council, I just want, for the purpose of the public, there are certain changes that have come directly from the council as a whole in this ordinance, and in the desire to increase the council awareness of what's going on. And just to explain that a little bit further so everybody understands. As you know, if you're following this, it seems like we're approving a master plan for a new development every meeting. There's a lot of things going on in this city. And we're asked, we, the council, are asked to make decisions on this. And it's pretty intense. And we want to try to make sure that whatever decisions we make up here, that we make them intelligently. So we're asking for this ordinance change to put the office of the mayor now and into the future more into the upfront process and the agenda. And that way, it'll be the responsibility of the mayor to make sure that the council is alerted to anything that the mayor feels perhaps the council isn't aware of, that they should be aware of, and give them a little more time to do some research and form an educated decision. So that's the purpose of this. It did come from the council that we make these changes. It is similar to the way Bluffton does it, where there's a council or a mayor administrative meeting in advance, and the agenda will be primarily like it is now. It'll be dictated by the needs of staff and administration. So having given that preamble and reasoning behind this particular ordinance, I will turn it over to Mr. Zimbor.
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Maines is going to just go through the changes to the code.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Mayor, thank you for giving that background on what these changes are. So there's only been 2 sentences that have been added to the ordinance. So the posting, the notice provisions will all be the same. There's just a sentence that the manager and mayor will have a pre-agenda meeting or a conference, which is going to be held prior to the publication of the agenda. And then if the mayor's not available for that meeting, then the mayor will assign a designee in accordance with section 2.53. So that is just the same way that the mayor designates someone to run a meeting if the mayor's not there. So it will go to the mayor pro tem. If the mayor pro tem is not available, then it'll be a prior mayor pro tem. If a prior mayor pro tem is not available, then the remaining council members will designate a person. Oh, and there was actually one more change made to the order of the agenda. I think it was switched up. You had a call to order before the invocation, but you actually do your invocation first. So we just made that update. So it's in accordance with how you have been doing business.
And also, what's important, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mrs. Maines, any council person can request an agenda item be made.
Yes, that's always been in here.
That's
That has
always
not been
been-
changed.
And that's really something that's important for all of us up here, that if any of us feels like there's a subject that needs to be addressed, they can request it be on an agenda for a public hearing.
That's correct, Mayor. We have an agenda request form. If you know, those are the summaries that you have for each of these. So that form is completed. It's submitted to the manager. It has to be by Thursday at noon, 1 week prior to the meeting. And if any of those requests are not fulfilled, there is written documentation kept of that. But that has not been changed in the ordinance. That has been in this one
Right.
for a few years now. I believe 2013 is when that was added. Oh, sorry. The manager just corrected me. It was actually 2015.
I know it was my first vote.
Yes, that's correct.
On this council, so I remember it well. You always remember your first. Okay, so I will start with my right again with Mr. Mearsman. Any comments or questions?
No, I think we've discussed this, and I think we've come up with the changes that we all wanted.
Okay, Mrs. Guzman?
I think this is a step in the right direction. I think we need to be more aware of what's going on when these developments come down the pike. So this is a good beginning, I think.
Mr. White?
Agree with what's been said. No additional comment.
Mr. Carroll?
Just, Mr. Mayor, did explain pretty well what we're trying to do. It's just unbelievable how much information we have to digest. And sometimes I think Brianna, this is her forte, and Mike, that's his forte sometimes, and it's tough sometimes for us to keep up. So this way, we'll at least have a little bit of advance notice, and if we have some additional questions, we can kind of get it deciphered. So I think this is good, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I just want to thank the council because I was so bored I didn't have any meetings to go to. And so thank you very much for giving me another meeting to go to. I must thank you all. Anyway, let's go to the public hearing at this time. Does anyone from the public have any comments or questions regarding this ordinance? Please state your name and address for the record.
Carolyn Castle, 57 Firethorn Place. I agree with all of you. I think this is a great move in the right direction for all of you to be aware of what's going on because it's always been a problem. But I also want to caution you too that I was in a situation under a previous administration where the mayor had all the control and there was 3 people on that council who did not want something placed on the agenda, and he overrode us and put it on the agenda, and therefore it failed. So it's a lot of responsibility on the mayor. So that open line of communication is so important with all of you to be aware of what's going on. But it was the reason why I left my first session. So I just wanted to make sure that you allow please keep that line of communication open between all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It does bring up a good point. That first vote that I made on October 1st, 2015, was in response to a broken system. I think since that time, putting in the requirement that a council person can put stuff on the agenda, it does put it back on a position, and that change was made because of a person, not because of a position. And I think what this council and Mr. White says all the time, it's important to put in things based on what's the right position to do the right stuff, because the faces change all the time in the way they work. And everybody thought that it's good to have the mayor involved with the city manager before it gets out there. And we have that extra precaution that written into this, that any council member can request an agenda item. So that was a good, I'm glad you brought that up, because it does refresh the history of why that happened October 2015 and kind of why it's coming to this point again.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we did this, Carolyn, we did discuss this, believe you me, in depth and hammered it out, and Prina came up with a couple of revisions even after we came up with some stuff. So, I mean, we all lived that. So, but thanks for that.
Okay, any other comments from the public? All right, seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes. This is ordinance, first reading, 2023-7-20A.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve on first reading ordinance number 2023-7-20A.
We have, a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments by council or the public? I'll just say one thing. My compliments for the council to, this is a council-fueled ordinance, and I think that's important to show the public that the council is not just sitting back looking for things to approve, but we're actually initiating legislation for the betterment of our city. So my compliments to the council. Having said that, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, second reading will be in 2 weeks. Next is a resolution of the City of Hardeeville, South Carolina, relating to the administration and operation of East Argent Municipal Improvement District, South Carolina, by approving the annual assessment report, updating the assessment roll, and authorizing the delivery of various assessments to Jasper County, South Carolina, and other matters relating thereto. This is Resolution 2023-7-20B. This is a resolution, and it means only one vote, which will be tonight. Mr. Zimbor, please.
Yes, sir. So the council did approve the borrowing for some improvements in the East Argent District. And Mr. Councilman Mearsman asked me, is this housekeeping? And I said, this is the classic definition of housekeeping. So annually, the council approves a special assessment roll, which is sent to Jasper County, and then they would levy it on the benefiting property owners' taxes. So basically what you're doing is, if you adopt the resolution, is approving the annual assessment roll, so we can be, those can be apportioned to those benefiting properties. So we're recommending adoption of this resolution.
Okay, I think we start with Mr. Carroll on this one.
No questions, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. White.
No questions.
Mrs. Guzman. Mr. Mearsman.
No questions, Your Honor.
You threw me off.
Piling you on, huh?
I do have a couple of questions. And first of all, and this is not the first time I said this, the amount of these MIDs is scary as could be. And every time I read about one, the same question, we all lived through 2008, and I said, what happens if the owner goes Chapter 8 or Chapter 11? So and it's not just a MID that scares me. It's the amount that we have going on in the city and the amount that potentially are coming forward, as we know some new developments are asking for them as well. So my question really relates to the East Argent development plans because, again, we approved this a couple years ago, right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
And I don't see any building going on. And that's why the question, if somebody goes Chapter 11, and they're the ones that are supposed to pay these notes, and nothing's happening out there in that particular one. And I don't see, although we've approved a lot of other master plans in East Argent that doesn't seem to have any activity. So my question is, on this particular one, with this particular mid, what's the status of the construction in that area?
Yes, sir. And Brandon can come up, but Mr. Mayor, this is all the mansion, this is all the D.R. Horton. There's hundreds of permits that have been issued. So every time a house is sold or a lot sold, they pay their special assessment off. But there's multiple developments that are under construction. And I think even Pulte's got 100 and something homes.
I know Pulte has it.
Yeah, but they're all, because there was a lift station and sanitary sewer improvements that were levied against those properties. So my point is that there's a lot of economic activity and building activity, but Brandon can tell you which.
Where we've seen activity, and I'm gonna include site activity as well as building activity because both goes into that the site has to get right. The commercial property up where Parker's is gonna be, they're well underway to getting their development permit, and we'll be breaking ground soon on that. The mansions, as well as the retreat. I don't know if you've been out to see the retreat, D.R. Horton project, but Matt and I had the privilege of going out there not too long ago, and there's a number of houses with people living in them out there. Riverton Point has grown tremendously. They're included in this, as well as as Mr. Seymour said, Twin Ponds, which is Mungo, right there by Riverton Point, and also the no, the
Cottages not
cottages
part
are
of it.
not in this project, but the Sun City product. We are well over 100 houses now that have been built and permits picked up and fees paid for that. So that is, well, of course, Hearthstone Lake and the Hunt Club, they're working towards that with the apartments, and then Cobblestone. We met with a group today to move forward on Cobblestone as well. So I hope that gives you a.
Just a follow-up question.
Sir.
So this mid is on the entire East Argent?
Entire East Argent.
Okay, because my memory must be faulty. I thought it was only when we passed this a couple years ago, there was only for one project within East Argent.
No, sir.
No, this is for the entire East Argent.
Anything that had not been built at that point. So all the new construction.
Okay, that's where my confusion was.
Updates we're getting monthly on our building permits. We can by looking at those, we can take that off. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll now open this up to the public. Does anyone from the public like to make a comment or question? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes to resolutions 2023-7-20B.
Make a motion, we approve 2023-7-20B.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further comments or questions by council or the public? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Next resolution is a resolution of the City of Hardeeville, South Carolina City Council adopting Amendment 8 to the employment agreement for the city manager. This is 2023-7-20C. Mr. Zimbor, please.
Yes, sir. This is an agreement between myself and the city. It relates to discussions that we've had regarding my tenure with the city. We've come to some conclusions and an acceptable resolution, so we're recommending we adopt this resolution, which would amend Section 13 of the employment agreement.
Okay, let's start the questioning with Mr. Mansman this time.
I think we have discussed this. I think we've all come to the conclusion that this is what we want, and I have no further questions.
Mrs. Guzman.
I have no further questions, sir.
Mr. White.
No questions.
Mr. Carroll.
No questions.
I have no questions either at this time, so I'll now open it up to the public. Would anyone from the public like to ask a question or make a comment regarding this resolution? Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes to Resolution 2023-7-20C.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2023-7-20C.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions, from the public or the council? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed. Resolution passes 5-0. Next is a resolution of the City of Hardeeville, South Carolina City Council, authorizing the city manager to submit a grant application and committing to providing a local match to the undiscovered South Carolina grant for a new turf field in the Richard Gray Sports Complex. This is Resolution 2023-7-20D. Ms. Combs, are you taking this one, or Mr.
Just
Zembor?
a brief comments, Mr. Mayor. So this is a tag team approach. I think we have Ms. Combs and Mr. Parsons and Mr. Brown. This is a interesting initiative. This is obviously, we value our recreational amenities, and this is obviously using significant resources that we have in order to apply for this grant and improve our recreational amenities for our public and obviously increasing our recreation tourism. So Ms. Combs has a presentation and the other two folks are here to answer any questions as well.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Okay, so a little bit about the Undiscovered Grant. The Undiscovered SC represents largely unknown and underutilized travel experiences that can be found throughout South Carolina. It is part of the untapped tourism potential of a developing destination, which is Hardeeville. It can also work with historic, cultural, or recreational attractions, and in our case, it would be sports tourism that we're continuing to try and build. Undiscovered SC is comprised of small towns, cities, and counties that often lack the individual resources to reach their potential as travel destinations. As you all are very well aware, funding for recreational facilities can be tough at times, as they do have high price tags. The Undiscovered SC grant program is designed to help communities realize their full tourism potential by investing in publicly owned tourism attraction projects that, once completed, will generate increased visitation and, of course, visitor spending here in our city. So this is the proposed project site. This is something for those of you that have been on the council for a while. Back in 2019, when we were working with our master plan for the Richard Gray Recreation Complex, one of the areas that was identified and the number, I think it was like the number 1 or number 2 need to grow sports tourism was to take our auxiliary field that we have in the back and turf it. So this is all the way in the very back. Okay. The project cost and funding, getting into the guts of everything. The estimated total project cost is about $905,000. The local match required for the grant is 107,575. So that's a pretty good return on your investment already. Additional funding sources to fund the total project with local grant match included is the $200,000 for undiscovered SC grant fund. That's what we're applying for. And then $250,000 in DA fees, and then $455,000 for the local accommodation tax. For your return on investment, the first year, which is always one of the slowest years to build everything back, is right around $35,000. After a 3-year, you're up to about 110 or more. 5 years is about 250 plus, and the lifetime, the amenity over 25 years is just a little over $1 million and some change. Some of the things that are going to help with the return on investment, of course, is the promotion of ASL and NSL club tournaments. We have a wonderful relationship with Tormenta. We're also looking to bring in some new lacrosse to the area. They do play on a 60-yard field, which is going to be perfect for the auxiliary field. And of course, we have increased rentals. I'm sure most of y'all know anytime in the afternoons that you come here at night, you see a ton of people in the back, and we're continuing to move those forward, trying to get more and more folks to come to our area. We also have football that's back there as well. Flag football is something new. We're looking to do that with adult and youth. It's not new to the area, obviously, but it's new to us. Also, cornhole is a new source of revenue stream for the city as well. So all of these are different revenue sources that will help on the return of investment. And of course, the economic benefits of the project. I don't think I need to really go in depth with any of you all to explain how much recreation does for the community and how much it does overall for our city. It certainly increases sports tourism by creating an additional space for partners such as Tormenta FC, who field several professional and club soccer teams to bring in additional tournaments and games. And they're from all over the place, Columbia, Jacksonville, it's all over the U.S. It also helps to increase spending at the local hotels, restaurants, and of course other businesses that are in the city of Hardeeville. It also helps to reduce the cancellations and postponements. We do live in the beautiful Low Country, and there are rainy seasons, and anyone that uses our fields understands that when it rains, you cannot get on the fields for a couple of days. So this also helps. Of course, the surface will be lined for lacrosse as well, which is a growing sport here, and it will help grow sports tourism through a new athletic opportunity in our area. And it also decreases the long-term maintenance cost. The amount of money that we have to pour into a regular grass turf every year is quite substantial. So this helps. Excuse me. In conclusion, the additional turf surface will result in increased sports tourism. It's going to generate additional economic impacts for the city, and the current artificial turf field, as you all know, excuse me, need water, sorry, has generated significant return on investment since its completion in 2017. Artificial turf fields are expensive because that's always the first thing everyone sees, but the long-term use of them is a reduction in the maintenance costs, the revenue potential that you see, and of course the economic benefits obviously outweigh the upfront costs. Resurfacing your auxiliary field to an artificial turf will create a second surface for year-long tournaments and games for participants and spectators. And when the Richard Gray Master Plan was adopted in 2019, additional turf fields were among the most requested. Thank you, Brandon. I'm struggling over here. Were the most requested improvements to help bring in more tourism. And of course, this grant will help us to achieve that goal. And I do have Neil who can talk a little bit more about the grant, and we also have John in the back who can verify any of the funds or anything like that if you have any specific questions for them as well.
I just have a comment. This surface, what's the sort of projected life of that? I'm just curious. Is it
25 years.
25, that's what I thought.
Yes, sir.
I think the focus on lacrosse, I'm a Baltimore boy, but I think that's a perfect sport to be on that. And I think we could, with a little promotion, become a real hub for that because it's hard to find places to play that are as attractive as our field and let fans come and make the players feel like they're part of something a little more big league. And so I think that's terrific.
Thank you.
And I still have my stick if you need.
I think we'll start with Mr. White. Any comments or questions?
Yes, as I was saying. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, wow. Too many titles here. Mr. Carroll.
Jen, I think you've done a great job researching this and planning it. And, I tell you all the time that, you do a great job for us, and I don't have any problems with that at all. Thanks, Shauna.
This is Guzman.
Thank you, Smokey.
No, I think, Jen, you've done an excellent job of bringing this to us and giving us all the initiative details. Thank you so much. I know it took a lot of work to get there. Thank you. What about pickleball? I know you can't play pickleball on turf, so.
Yeah, so right now we do have pickleball in the gymnasium. Yes, and we've actually increased our offering. So right now, if you're in Sun City or Margaritaville, we have a ton of people that come over, Riverton as well. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We have it from 8 until 12. And then now we're adding league play. Started Tuesdays. I'm on vacation. I just came back for this. I'm sorry. Tuesdays when the league actually started. So they're going to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays as well. Yeah, so yes.
Mr. Bisman.
Jen, I would congratulate you and the staff for getting it to this point, because I think we're definitely going to need it as a community as we grow. And I've said it so many times, what we have in recreational facilities here in Hardeeville for a town this size is absolutely amazing. My only question, and I guess maybe a concern, is somewhere down the road, as we grow our complex back there, will we wind up to the point where we will have to need somebody monitoring these events in the evenings?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, we just hired somebody to do that. So we have a part-time position. He started on Monday, so he will be there in the evening times to monitor. Logan and I switch positions at times, so he's usually monitoring most of the rec center, and then the evening times you'll find me here in the back with all the different sports stuff that's going on, and it just became a little bit too much to handle with us trying to be here 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. So we do have a part-time person that has started for that. So yes.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Jeff. I agree with everybody. I mean, we all brag about how the recreation department, since your arrival, has really taken us to another level. So I have a number of questions, and I always feel guilty because, everything you ask for is legitimate, and it adds to our city's offering, which is terrific. But as a conservative money person, I look at these numbers and I'm very concerned. Number one, the match of $107,000 to get a $200,000 grant. That's a 50% match. That's high. And so $107,000 is a big match. And if we go back to your return on investment numbers, $1.1 million over 25 years is a 1-to-1 return on investment. I doubt you'd get many bankers that would think that was a good deal. And it's also based on some numbers that are kind of, I don't know where they come from. I'm sure you've thought them through, but I'm a little, they're speculative at best. So I'm concerned about that. I'm also concerned, the DA fees, what development agreement does that come out of? That $250,000, is it? Where's that coming from?
Mr. Mayor, that's a combination of a number of development agreements.
And they're under the recreation?
Yes,
Under the recreation.
that's correct.
And the ATAX money, and that is, whatever that is, what I'm concerned about, whatever we take out of ATAX, that's money we can't use otherwise. And to give one example, the state just passed the ability to use ATAX money for attainable housing. And we have not had that conversation yet. So we're spending money before we've had a conversation whether or not we want to spend ATAX money on attainable housing. If we say yes to this, that reduces our ability to fund other things by $455,000. So I'm concerned about that. Not that it's not a good project, but I'm concerned that whether or not it's a priority at this time. Another question I have, the last time we did the turf field, which was $650,000 and a lot less money than 900. But after they started digging, we found out we needed $50,000 worth of dirt because the dirt that was on that field at the time didn't accommodate the turf field. Has that been looked into yet?
No.
Or is that going to be another surprise?
It could be. Any construction project, the same thing with the recreation center. I mean, soon the soils came back, and I think we ended up having to expend over $1 million. So, I mean, there is contingency that's built into this grant. So if it does happen, we also have money to be able to forecast that and make sure that we're covered. And also, too, for the ATAC stuff, John, I know, is right behind me. He can also talk about that. But we did make sure that we looked at the affordable housing, and it does not touch those fees at all.
Okay, so I guess we should look at those numbers. How much are we spending each year and how much are we going to have left if this council decides to use it for some other purpose? And again, it's not the fact that the council wouldn't choose this as the option, the fact that the council has not studied it as an option. Another concern I have, not too long ago, I have on very good authority that Tormento was shopping around and looking for a different home than the city of Hardeeville. That was a pretty real situation as far as I've been told. And they may not have gone forward or whatever, but what it scares me is they're the primary users of these turf fields. John Paul II is increasing their facility, and will they continue in the future, in the next 25 years, continue to pay to use our field? And I get a little uncomfortable when I hear Tormento can shop around and perhaps leave. Do we have a long-term agreement with them?
No, we don't. Their agreement will end it'll end next year. And then we've already been in talks with them to increase their time. I think right now their current contract is 5 years. So Tormenta isn't necessarily shopping around. What they're doing is they need more space. So we've actually sent them to other places where they can have more playable turf space because we don't have it here.
So again, my uneasiness is if Tormenta found, a partner in Bluffton, we could lose them. And then all this investment that we're making, that return of investment goes down the drain. And I wouldn't question Tormento's long-term viability if I didn't hear that they were shopping around. And that doesn't mean they're going to move. It just means they're looking. So that concerns me. The other thing, as part of the justification here is lacrosse. Now, who runs lacrosse?
So there's a lot of different things. Right now, we don't have a full-time athletic person. Hopefully in the next coming years, we'll be able to add that. But what we are doing is partnering with different agencies. It's the same thing with Tormenta. There's 5 other agencies behind Tormenta that want our fields. So if we lose Tormenta, there's 5 others that can replace them as well. There's always going to be somebody to replace it. The problem right now that the Low Country is seeing, even in if you cross the river into Georgia, there's just not enough field space. It's a growing sport. Lacrosse is growing as well, kind of like pickleball. Everyone wants to have a pickleball space, but there's just not enough space.
The only reason I asked, because we had this discussion about a athletic manager that the council did not fund this year. And when you add positions like this and all the additional work that staff has to do, well, your return on investment becomes even less because you're adding cost, not just the cost of the field, but you're adding costs to operate that field every night. And that lowers that one-to-one return on investment even further. So I'm concerned about that. On slide 6, you said that with weather, that it provides a second playable surface even during inclement weather. But inclement weather would not affect the current field as well. So that was one of the reasons we put
Yeah,
turf.
so turf you can play on when it's raining.
Right.
Or not, it will destroy your field.
Right, exactly. But
So it is playable.
right now, inclement weather doesn't necessarily close down our existing turf field, right?
No, it doesn't.
And what's the yearly cost to maintain versus let's maintain a grass field?
A grass field is anywhere between, I would say, about $50,000 to $60,000 a year, not including all of the staff costs that are associated with it. Just to refurbish it twice a year, plus seating, it's pretty expensive. And that's just one field.
When you say that, you're including chemicals on that situation?
Yes, yeah, we have several contracts that we use to come in on all of our fields. The only 2 fields that we don't do anything on are the fields that USCB is utilizing. We've contracted with them, and they cover their own fees for that.
And there's debt service on this, did I see?
Debt service for
there-
the grant?
Debt service that we're paying, no debt service? Okay, I don't know where I made this note from. Okay, those are my concerns. It's a great project. I am concerned about devoting this much money to a second turf field when you have some of these unknowns lurking, and that concerns me. But I thought I'd bring them up. I'll go with the will of the council. Thank you for answering.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, just a couple questions, just a couple points, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, all great questions, which obviously I always do. Just a couple points. So if the council approves this, you're giving us the authority to apply for it. That doesn't mean we're going to get it, as you know.
Right.
B, and I think all people know me here, up here, and I know those folks out here, when Jen and Neil came to me and John said, can we want to apply for this? I said, well, how are we going to pay for it? So we did a extremely deep dive and analysis of the local A-tax, H&H tax, to say, what are our needs, what are our obligations, specifically the debt service on the rec center, and we are there's more than enough funds. I mean, I don't want to say we're financially flush with funds. So I think that we can provide that to the council. If we get this grant, we as a city will have to make an application for the use of those funds. Those will come back to the city council for your consideration. You'll get a detailed analysis of what the current fund balance is, what the uses would be. Specifically, you talked about, Mr. Mayor, attainable housing and what's left over. And there's significant resources left over. So I think that's good information for the council to consider. And then finally, I asked Jen to do a return on investment. I mean, it's very important. When you do any investment, you want to know, well, what's the return? Well, as we know on recreational amenities and programs, a lot of times there is no return on investment. It's paid for by tax dollars, some small percentage, and I'm always after directors that I deal with. We try to recover as much as we can, but if we can recover between 20 and 30%, we're doing a darn good job. So that 1-to-1, even though it's over a 25-year period, that's 100% recovery of our investment. So I agree with Mr. Mayor, all good questions, and this is policy decisions the council has to make based on, is sports tourism and is recreational amenities important to the council? If it is, we're recommending that we proceed.
And Mr. Zimmer, just to explain my questions a little bit, you're right. And as you and I had a very lengthy conversation about whether or not to charge people for the rec center, if it's our residents that benefit, then I'm 100% that no resident should pay for anything, as you well know.
Yes, sir.
But what we're doing here is we are inviting people outside our city. So they should pay for it. We should get a return on investment because these are not, and the Tormento people, these are not Hardeeville residents that are going there. And it's preventing Hardeeville residents from being on that field when they are there. And they're paying to be there. So it's different. And that's why with me, it always becomes a matter of priority. And we're spending all this money on a field that outside people are going to use. And meanwhile, we have the whole municipal hub that we haven't spent any money. And there's playgrounds and things scheduled for there that we haven't planned to do yet. And that would directly benefit the people who live downtown. And so it's not a question of this being a good or bad project. It's a question of what's the priority. Is this the priority, or is it putting a playground in the municipal hub and getting that going, that we paid a lot of money for a master plan? Is that more of a priority? And that's why I question it. The project's great. You've done a great job. Having all those people come every night is a terrific thing for our city. But some of the other projects are important as well. And that's the reason for the question and the reason why I question it. But again, it's up, I will go with the will of the council. So, any other comments or questions?
One other question for you. With lacrosse, what's your projection of how many schools within, say, 25-mile radius play lacrosse? Not every school. It's not like basketball, but it's not as obscure as it was, say, 10 years ago. So potentially, are there 30 schools that play lacrosse, or there are 50? And then those would be the basis for attracting people on this one aspect of lacrosse. I'm not sure that, it's not fair that you'd say, well, right now, but I think that'd be an interesting piece of marketing data to know what's the potential audience.
Absolutely. We can certainly get that information back to you. We're looking at this. You can look at it at a regional approach, but we're looking at it, and this is one of the goals of council, was to increase athletic activities for sports tourism. So we're trying to make sure that we follow through with your wishes. But we can bring all that stuff back, and we can send it to Mr. Simbor to get that information out to you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jennifer, can you provide us with probably a monthly update of the number of hours that Tormenta uses our fields? And that gives us an idea to base our thought process going ahead as we move with this project. How much is being used by outsiders, and how much are we? I guess my feeling is I don't want to turn away residents when we have an outside group, even though they are paying for it. Somewhere along the line, we have to be able to find a balance for that. Because I know we have pickup soccer and everything else going up out there too. I don't want to send those folks away. They're residents here of Hardeeville also. And an agreement with the mayor, can be a difficult decision. This amount of money, when we have our downtown area and other areas that we're working with, I guess it's just, in my mind, it's justification, just to be able to justify this expense. I think it's great that we're moving ahead with this, but I just need to be able to justify that we are doing it at the right time.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I think, if I might add to your thought, Mr. Zimbor, now that I've thrown all these questions and put these doubts in everybody's mind, I think what Mr. Zimbor said is important, that, this is not committing us to this. It just commits us to get going for the grant. And so we're not making any final decisions here tonight, but at least these are things to think about, to look at for you and for the council before we do have to make the final decision to accept this grant, should we get it. Is that fair to say that?
Yes,
That
sir.
this is not the
Yeah.
final decision?
That's fair. Yes, sir.
And I think what Mr. Mearsman asked for, rather than a monthly update, but if you could give us like some sort of yearly summary, you know, at your leisure, and it's, again, we're not making a final decision in the next 5 minutes, but who uses that field? How often? How much money do we derive from it? Because I did, and Mr. Mearsman, you know, one of the things reason I said that, when we had the Black Lives Matters march here in Hardeeville, you know, some of the residents did make comment to that, legitimate or not, but that, hey, you know, it's our field and we can never get on it. And we do restrict that field. We protect it really well, and I'm not saying we shouldn't. But those are some of the comments that we get from local residents. And there are, you know, what we provide the residents and what we provide for sports tourism and that kind of income. So I think Mr. Mearsman, would a yearly summary of
The yearly summary would work. It's just it's something that we would be able to provide to residents if they ask us about those things.
Yeah, I think that's good. We could ask questions. That's a good ask, I think.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from council before I open up to the public? Anyone from the public?
Do have some comments on Facebook, Mr. Mayor.
Would you like to come to the podium and?
It's been so long, but okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Ms. Jennifer Brad Henry says, bingo, thanks for speaking up about downtown residents. Local kids cannot even play at the current space. Then Ms. Leah Ratliff agreed we can't even get practice time at the rec center for youth sports due to the court being rented out.
So there's always that blend, and Jen, we hear that as the first line of communication from the public. We do hear that, and we're sensitive to it because, you know, recreation is first and foremost for our local residents. So I think we need to keep that in mind, and we're not just a business. Recreation is not just a business. It's also a service to our community. So and you understand, I'm preaching to the choir.
I've been in recreation
I don't
for
mean
35 years,
I don't mean
so
to preach to
absolutely
you
not.
because you've done a wonderful job bringing so many new things for the local residents, and there are things. And you know me, I've been asking for 3 years, I'd like to see splash pads instead of another turf field. That's just me, and nobody agrees with me, so that's fine. But you know, and certainly it would be very full right now in the 100-degree weather we're having. So again, it's not the question for me that this is a good project or a bad project. The question is, are there other priorities that we should be looking at? And that's all.
Sure.
And we don't have to answer that today.
Sure.
Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, or make any changes. This is Resolution 2023-7-20D.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion we approve Resolution 2023-7-20D.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions by council or the public? Seeing none, I'd call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed. Okay, let's get that grant, and then we'll discuss it again. Thank you. Next is a consideration of approval of designated marketing organization at DMO, proposed F-24 budget. Mr. Zimbor or Mr. Boyle, who's?
I'll give it a first shot.
Okay.
Little bit of a different approach here. Recently, the Tourism and Expenditure Review Committee for the state ATAX
has said that we need to have the DMO, of course, is Kendall's organization, present a budget and then have that approved by the ATAX committee. That has been done. So now we're coming to you to say that, and again, our direct accommodation tax money only can go to the DMO. So that $92,000, Kendall presented her budget, walked through it with the ATAX committee, and it was approved. So we're here tonight to ask council to approve as well that $92,000 for the 23-24 proposed budget for the DMO.
So I'll take this opportunity now to introduce Kendall Malfers, who is the director of the Jasper County Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening. Thank
Good
you
evening.
for having me here. Like he was telling you, we are the designated marketing organization that you have chosen, and we're honored, and we just thank you for trusting us with your finances. As you said before, the state ATAX laws are that you have to give the 30% to a designated marketing organization. You can't do anything else with it. 100% of that is, well, you see the thing. We spend it on Hardeeville. I cannot spend it on anything else. So we are an open book. I wasn't really sure what to expect tonight. I can tell you that I based the budget. There's never really an accurate amount of exactly what we're going to get because we just really don't know. So what I do is each year I budget based upon the previous year's budget, which is where the 92,000 came from. I will tell you that last year I spent $96,819 on Hardeeville, and last year we received 94,000. I spent 96,000. The chamber absorbs the overage. So again, it all goes to the city of Hardeeville. I did bring some samples of just a few of the print media we did. If you guys are interested in seeing it. Yeah, the advantage of print media these days, I know it seems a little old school, but everything's digital as well. So all of these magazines and whatnot are online, digital. You can see them, and that just covers a massive amount of coverage for the city of Hardeeville. But we do, for example, your brochures, your maps, which you have an ad, and one side is completely Hardeeville's map. The Low Country Visitor's Guide, you have a full page right at the front in this one, full page. We go through USA Today because they do quite a few publications, but I stay regional within, the South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida. I stay regional. They have a Hunt and Fish, which is where we live. They have a Go Escape that has the beaches and whatnot, which again is part of. They have a national parks one, which we have several parks with the wildlife refuge, so I chose that one. And then there's another Florida Southeast Go Escape, another as well. Those are just some examples of some of the things. And again, all of these are digital. We also do all of the marketing. We work very closely with Jen. We do all of the marketing for Festival of Maine. We do the snow day. We provided the snow. That was $8,000. We are working with Neil to do the welcome packages. I think that you said that was $3,900, approximately $4,000. We sponsored the RBC Heritage, of which our mayor has done the commercials for. So that's just to give you an idea of what all we're doing. And again, I can't spend it on anything but Hardeeville. And if you have any questions, please just throw them my way. I'll be glad to answer.
Okay, thank you. Let's start. I forgot what was the last slide. Let's start with Mr. Carroll.
Kendall, it sounds like, you've researched it and you always do a good job for us, and you've been with us for quite a while now, and I don't have any questions. If that's what you say, good for me.
Mr. White?
I'm just curious, with all the different ways that you do things, do some things work better or get more response than other things? And if so, in other words, are we investing some of the money on what's working better and spending less on things that don't work quite as well?
Well, interesting enough, as you know, the world has gone digital pretty much. And I would question the print media a little, except that nowadays all these magazines are going online as well. So by putting it in print, yes, we're getting the digital coverage as well. Um, the billboards, I'm surprised. I'm billboards aren't my go-to for marketing. However, I have talked to Jen, and for example, the billboard that has the dog park where the dog's jumping from one billboard to the other, she says she gets a lot of folks coming in say they saw it. So they seem to get a good response. We do all the billboards on 95. If you see one that's not on I-95, it's because it's added value, and you may see it on 462 or 170, something like that, or at the Talmadge Bridge, the digital one there. But that's added value that Adams Outdoor gives us for paying for the ones that we have on I-95. Radio, sometimes people say that's outdated, but again, they love it. So, and I will tell you that I do work closely with the city, and I do take a lot of direction based upon what they want. So, it's your money, so obviously I'm going to spend it how you guys want us to spend it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Guzman?
Have we been able to quantify the ROI on these monies spent, the return on investment?
I have not. You're talking about,
Like, we spend all this money, but it's how is it translating into actual people?
well, like with the billboards, you can only gauge how many cars pass on I-95 in a day. That's really the only way to gauge that. With radio, you basically know how many listeners each station has, which is quite a broad spectrum. With the magazines, it's the subscribers and where they are distributed, which is in all of the welcome centers and whatnot. So we base that upon where and how many we distribute, and then when it goes online, how many viewers there are online. So that's how we can base it for that kind of thing. What else do we do? The digital, you can get the 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 geo areas, and you can get a little more data on the digital stuff.
Some of the digitals will give you click data on
Yes.
your,
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, the Google Analytics.
Yes.
Yes. We can get some of that. I don't have any with me, but we can get some of that. Okay.
Mr. Mearsman?
I wish I had your enthusiasm. Really.
Well, thank you.
I think this is the advertising and everything that we're doing. And I've always considered Hardeeville is the front door to South Carolina for people coming up from the south, and is not just South Carolina, of the Jasper County, everything here. And just by the response that we get for the dog park from the billboards tells me people are paying attention. And the other things here, everything starts small, and as we grow. If 7-8 years ago the growth in Hardeeville residential wasn't there, and it's amazing. Given time with all of this, it's going to grow. We're seeing results now, and it is terribly hard to quantify what we're doing, but it's working. That's all I can say.
I'm glad to hear that. I will say that when I do ads in these, I remain consistent. I will put the same ad for that year in everything, so that you see in a brand, you say, oh, that's that Hardeeville. I saw that there. I saw that there. So that's kind of what we do.
I really have no question. I've always wondered about billboards, but I do, since I'm running across a lot of new people to this area a lot of people do notice those billboards. If you live here a while, you don't even look at them. But the new people coming in, they are seeing the billboards, and they'll say,
surprises me as
"Oh,
well,
that
yeah.
billboard there." I said, "Which one?" I forgot that it was even there. So, so people are looking at it, and particularly the new people, and they're the ones I think we want to hit. But I think I think you do a great job with the money that we give you, and I have no objection.
It seems to me if the game that you're in, you've got to have this. If you don't have it, you're.
I can only do what I'm given to do.
Yeah,
so.
but absolutely, it's a necessity if we're trying to attract people and do these things. To not have it really puts us way back, I think. And thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open to the public. Does anyone from the public have any comments or questions regarding this, this approval? Nothing digitally, Juan?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Seeing none, I'd like a motion to approve, disapprove, and make any changes. This is the approval of the designated marketing organization.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the designated marketing organization proposed fiscal year 24 budget.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions by the public or by council? Seeing none, I'll call for a voice vote on this. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall. Thank you for waiting. Next, we go to the manager's report. Mr. Zimbor, please.
Yes, sir. Four quick things and one I'd ask the council's a little bit of indulgence for. So first thing, workshop. next-
Again, my name is Michael Sim.
Not yet. That's about right.
Put that in.
I'm gonna
He's
come up here. That's my fifth thing.
He's throwing his voice again.
Hold on.
Well,
Four quick things. That's the fifth thing, but four quick things here. A workshop next Tuesday, I think, 3:00. The agenda has been set out, so if any comments or questions before that, please get back with me. Secondly, I wanted to make a note. I did speak previously about the city clerk search. Obviously, Miss Lori, I think she's been counting down for probably years, but more over the last 6 months. So she's a short timer, but we did conduct a very extensive search, and we're very pleased to announce that Miss Robin, the deputy clerk, will become the next city clerk.
Congratulations.
We are going to be trying to schedule a joint council meeting with the town of Ridgeland. We have some issues relating to fire service and some other issues, so the mayor wants, we've met and we're trying to coordinate some times in August to meet jointly with Ridgeland. So that we'll get that agenda out. And then obviously today I did send you the email. We did get notice from Jasper County that they did pass a resolution supporting the Exit 3 project with some conditions. So we're very thrilled about that. You know, that's been, again, a marathon that we hopefully are seeing the tape that we can cross very soon. Hopefully by the end of this year, we can cross that and adopt all those agreements. All right. Now let's go to the video.
Have to go to the bullpen calling the right-hander.
Redundant.
Yeah, the experts.
No.
It's just not meant to
I have to save myself something for this. Can anybody sing while we're waiting?
But you wouldn't want to
Again, my name is Michael Simbor. I'm pleased and honored to be here. About 4 months ago, I saw the advertisement for the city of Hardeeville city manager job. I really didn't know where Hardeeville was. I can recall going through it. I'm born and raised in Michigan, so I can remember I probably stopping here a couple times getting gas. I really didn't know much about the town. But as I read the advertisement that was done by Mr. Slavin on your behalf, the executive recruiter, I became very intrigued. And what really intrigued me is just the breadth and depth of the potential in this community. And what I meant by that is a community that is on the verge of greatness, going from 5 square miles to 56 square miles with all kinds of opportunities for greatness. So I said, I want to be part of that. Any city manager, any professional local government manager, when they see this challenge of economic development, community redevelopment, integrating a historic community into a much larger family. So I applied for the position and went through the process. I had a very good talk with the mayor and the council members, and luckily and fortunately, I was selected for the position. So I wanted to thank the mayor and the council members for giving me this opportunity. Just briefly about myself. Married, born and raised in Saginaw, Michigan. So people from the north, I know there's a lot of people from the north here. People from the north, especially Michigan, talk with their hands. So I'm from Saginaw, Michigan. I know there's a Lefty Frizzell song about Saginaw, Michigan. I know it was probably a little before my time, but I've heard it many times. So I went to a Catholic school, graduated with honors. I went to Central Michigan University, graduated in 3.5 years with a bachelor's degree in local government administration. I started my first village manager job in a town in White House, Ohio. I was about 3,000 people. I was 22 years old. So 22 years old with about a year of experience. I had some internships and some other experience, but it kind of shaped my style. I had about 40 employees. All the employees had kids older than me. And even the finance director said, I've got socks older than you, my friend. But we worked together. So I've been in local government management now for 28 years. I'm going to be 52 years old. I've worked in 3 states, I think 6 or 7 municipalities, ranging from about 3,000 up to about 12,000. I've managed employees up to 250 full-time equivalents and about $100 million budget. So I've got some experience. I'm married almost 30 years, next February, 30 years. So I'm happy about that. 2 daughters, one Valdosta State University in Georgia, going to be going into the nursing program, thrilled to death about that. And one's a senior in high school, so we'll see where that goes. So I am thrilled to be here. I'm going to work as hard as everybody wants me to. We're going to accomplish great things together. We got a great staff here. We got a motivated mayor and city council. We can only be great. Let's bring this community together. I know that we got the historic part, and we got a bunch of newcomers that really want to make this community the best it can be. So stop in and see me, email me, phone me, come and have coffee. And what we're going to do is, we as a team, it's not me, it's we. We are going to be going out to the nonprofit groups. We're going to go out to anybody that wants to talk to us and tell us about our story. How can we all be involved to move this community forward? So I'm glad to be here. Again, I know I'm enthusiastic, I'm honest, and local government is a calling. We have a duty and an obligation to serve the people of the community, and we're going to do that. So thank you very much for welcoming me, and I'm humbled to be here. Thank you. There's 2 reasons, Mr. Mayor and Council, to bring that up. A, I think I've aged pretty well in 8 years. Maybe I did it better today than I did. No, that is true, absolutely. And then secondly, I want to make sure that what I pledged to do there is what I have been doing and what I, hope to keep doing in the future. Go to the next thing. So when I got here, I interviewed, I surveyed the mayor and council members and the department heads. What are your priorities? What are the immediate things that we need to do? As well as looking at the position description when I was hired. So I'm just going to tick off, and I think we've all done these. And it's not me, it's we. I think we collectively succeeded. Establish a vision for the city. Check. Strategically manage growth. Check. Replace aging vehicle fleet and equipment. Absolutely. Upgraded or replaced obsolete city facilities. Build recreation center and improve recreational amenities. Integrate old and new Hardeeville into one community. Diversify and enhance the tax base. Secure funding and partnerships for Exit 3. restart development by engaging developers and development agreement holders, enhance the city's financial position and fund balance, hire professional staff to move the city forward, improve internal and external communications, increasing transparency and accountability, and finally, strengthen citywide sustainability. So those are all things that the previous council and the staff acknowledged and said, this is what we got to do. And I think we've accomplished all those things. So in any professional or personal relationship, there's always a beginning, middle, and end. And as I look back at my service for the city, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I think I've used that terminology more times than not. But I think I'm getting to the point where I can see the 26 miles coming up. So I think I'm approaching the last hill, and you can see the finish line. So with that, I'm putting my official notice with my intent to retire with the city of Hardeeville October 31st of 2024. It's been an honor and a privilege. We still have a lot to do, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to keep moving the city forward. And then finally, the foundation of my local government career has been to, whenever I leave a city or organization, I leave it in a better condition than what I found it. I submit to this council that we have done that, and we've met that goal. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
I'm glad I'm not going first after that. We're going to go alphabetically this evening, and start with Mr. Carroll.
You would do that, wouldn't you?
Well, last time was reversed, so being fair.
That is a tough act to follow. And I think we all know what a good job Mike's done. And will continue to do. He's still got, what, Mike, this is August, September, October, so about 15 months. So you still got plenty of time. But anyway, we do thank you for your service. And Mr. Mayor, I don't have any things to add this time.
Next would be Mrs. Guzman.
I just wanted to, wow. Thank you, Mike. I had the pleasure of working with you the last 6 months, and I've not had any issues when I submit for a request. You always take care of it. You've done a fantastic job. Thank you. And October next year is a long way off, so I'm going to continue to bug you. That's what we're here for. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Mearsman.
First, I'd like to say thank you, Mike. Your service to the city will always be remembered. And as people look around Hardeeville, they'll see your stamp on many items within the city. As I look at the clock, we've had almost a 2-hour meeting tonight. And in that 2 hours, we covered a myriad of things and with an open discussion, and we've debated and looked at all objects of the resolutions and the ordinances that we've passed. To me, that's an excellent example of good government. Some people may say things like that take too long, but that's what government is about, is analyzing everything that comes across and is put up here for us to vote on. And I appreciate everybody on the staff for providing that information. I'm looking forward to the future of Hardeeville. I'm looking forward to working with Mike for one more year and to see how far we can go. With that, Mr. Mayor, that's it.
Mr. White.
It's impressive to sort of take that little history journey right there. And all of us that are sitting here today are sitting here in a much better city with a lot more exciting things that happened as a result of that vision years ago. And so, Mike, I admire what you did, and I have a lot of respect for it, and thank you. What's also exciting is we have 15, 16 months to do the next phase of things that are very, very important. And I want to acknowledge Mike and also the staff that he hired and the staff that did this work along with Mike. And the council's really a minor part of that compared to the council. I mean, the staff and the leadership of the manager. So I acknowledge all your good work too. But again, congratulations.
A couple of things. And first of all, I'd like to thank particularly the Recreation, the Public Works, for the Fill the Bus campaign that took place on July 12th, and we delivered to the schools on the 13th. I don't know how to estimate the amount of school supplies that we delivered to Royal Live Oaks and the school and the Hardeeville school complex. But if I say it was 50,000 items, probably I'm not exaggerating. And maybe it was more. This, when I got here, was a couple of boxes in a couple of locations, and if people throw a couple pencils in. It really has grown, and in large part because of it became a citywide event, thanks to the Parks and Recreation taking over, working with people like Beth in Sun City and other volunteers in other communities as Margaritaville came on and Riverton Point, and it expanded, and it is just overwhelming the amount of stuff that we delivered to the schools. And so thank you very much. I know this is an added thing to the many things that the staff does, and I want a big thank you. Last Friday, I think it was, Mike and I met with representatives, including the mayor of Texas City, Texas, who appears ready to be the latest edition of having a Margaritaville come to their community. And it was amazing some of the many similarities that, even though they're a lot bigger city than we are, but a lot of similarities with having the old community, the new community, and the challenges of faced with any community that's as diverse as a city like Hardeeville. So I just want to extend our best wishes to the city of Texas City in their new endeavor with Margaritaville. Also, we have a new care-based doctor group coming on 170. It's the Ostner Group, and I believe they're end of October is their scheduled opening. I met with them today, and they seem like good people, and it's a welcome to our community, because I hear all the time there are not enough primary care providers here in this area. So these are going to be a welcome addition to our community. I'm going to be sending out, as you, I think you all know, I'm a board member of Habitat for Humanity. And the last 2 years, in September, the city of Hardeeville has participated in a golf tournament. It will be September 25th this year. Chief Woodward and Mike and I have participated. The first year we did, we won. I think we fudged the numbers, I don't know, but we did win that year. We didn't win last year. I just want the council to know, because I think this is important. You know how sensitive I am about solicitation. I will be forwarding this to a lot of our development partners and making sure that they understand that I'm not soliciting, but I'm going to make our partners aware of it so that if they want to participate as well. But I want the council to be aware of that with no obligation to our partners in the business community. And last but certainly not least, I mean, this is Today's announcement is, is bittersweet. When I first got here and campaigning for a special election, and I had no idea that Hardeeville existed. I didn't even know I lived in Hardeeville. Mike came August 31st, and my first council meeting was a month later on October 1st. So I think of everybody in this group, you and I have traveled many roads together. Some of those roads were bumpy, but most of them were smooth, and all the things that you listed here are a result of that teamwork between councils, and a lot of faces changed, administration and staff. And so I can only wish you well and happiness in whatever your next phase of your life is. And thank you for everything, the positive things you've done. And your legacy is all around us. Thank you. Okay. I have nothing else to say, so if we want to go home and have dinner, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Lori, Karina?